This is a really cool episode because it's something kind of like last week. I've talked about this many, many times, and I felt that it was appropriate today to talk about the differences between having great fitness and having great athleticism. The issue, generally speaking, when it comes to fitness versus athleticism is people talk about those two things synonymously as if they're the same thing.
Yeah.
Now, being athletic will make you fit. So people who are athletic generally have great fitness. And there are people that have great fitness that tend to be good athletes. But the lines kind of get a little blurred when I'm trying to improve one by doing the other. More specifically, since we're kind of catering towards athletes and parents who want their athletes to do well, the common issue is, let me improve my fitness, and by default my athleticism will also improve. And there is some truth to that.
Yeah.
But I find that is some truth, not all the truth.
Yeah.
So I guess we can start off by kind of defining each one. We'll start off with fitness. Fitness generally means just your health biomarkers, right? It could be your body fat percentage, the amount of muscle mass you have on you, maybe how much muscular endurance you have, your ability to do basic task and have general, excuse me, your ability to do a basic task and do it easily with efficiency, right? So if I'm fit, I can walk up a flight of stairs and maybe not be out of breath. If I'm fit, I can, do that project in the backyard and that 8-hour project and be fine. Yeah. If I'm fit, I can go on a hike. I can go on a 12-mile hike in Yosemite and then be okay with it. However, it doesn't necessarily mean I'm athletic. Fitness is generally your overall health.
Yeah.
Right. Being athletic or having athleticism is the ability to move. Right. Yeah. So the way I define an athlete is as a person who can do these three things. They can move through space efficiently. They can efficiently move through space.
Yeah.
While accomplishing a task. So moving and the ability to manage space while doing some form of a skill set.
Yeah.
So if you take the biomarkers of an athlete versus general fitness, things like speed, agility, power, elasticity, that matters.
Yeah.
Reaction time.
Yeah. I remember you actually helped me change my lens on that idea, because I remember that it wasn't even that long ago, right? Still always learning. And I was talking to you, I was like, yeah, I'm trying to build on muscle, so I'm doing hypertrophy training. And like, so athletes aren't big either. DK Metcalf is just not big. And I was like, maybe you got a point, Henry. And so I started looking more into it, and I realized hypertrophy training that I was trying to do is perfect if I'm trying to be a bodybuilder. I'm trying to get as much mass as possible. But that's if I'm trying to get as much mass as possible. I can do strength training and power training and speed training and still put on size and still be at the weight I'm trying to get to. Hypertrophy is like, you have to understand where each one fits and what you actually need and what's your actual end goal. And that allows you to start putting in the things you actually need, realizing that sometimes the things that are showcased on the internet aren't always the best thing.
No, that's a common goal per se. For a lot of athletes, it's kind of a microwave approach of, if I just put more size on, bigger, faster, stronger, we've all heard this, bigger, faster, stronger, I'm a better athlete. And it's not that simple, because I remember I was working with this pitcher, and I've had this issue many times, but this pitcher was able to deadlift 550 pounds for 5 reps.
Yeah.
Strong boy, right?
Yeah.
So he had done an aggressive strength and conditioning program. His fitness was great, stronger, He was faster. His velocity went down. He lost 3 miles per hour. He lost 3 miles per hour on his velocity, and he was like berserk. He's like, what
We
the
probably
F?
lost. He probably wasn't training mobility. He wasn't training how to
Whoa.
throw it all.
He was, in his mind, it was a program he was given to put on more size because he was throwing, I believe, like 93, 94. And, strength coach goes, hey, if we put more size on you, you'll throw harder. So he was a college athlete. So I saw him, his name's Steve. I saw him a year later because I would only train him during the off season, whether it be like during the summer or during Christmas break.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude looked like a tank. He looked like a unit. I was like, holy crap, this dude's gonna.
Yeah.
And the first thing he tells me, he goes, dude, like my velocity went down. What do you call me, dude? Call me coach. And I was like, what the heck? He goes, I say, what's going on with your training? He goes, coach, I've been doing everything. I've been hitting it hard. He had this program and he got bigger. I think he put on like 15 pounds in a year.
Yeah.
Because there's this research that suggests that I forget what it is, but for like more mass translates to more potential power, right?
Yeah. Well, you like rock climbing, right? You and the kids are always rock climbing. Have you ever heard of Magnus Matidbo on YouTube?
Yes, he's a stud, a YouTuber.
Stud. And that guy is up there with bigger bodybuilders. I'm forgetting the dude's name right now, the bodybuilder, but he's on there and he's pulling. Larry Wheels. He's pulling as much weight as he is. And I would argue in a lot of those exercises, he also has cleaner form pulling just as much weight. And the dude's maybe even like a quarter of his size. Not a big dude at all. But yeah, muscle, there's a misconception of bigger muscles equals more strength. Well, no, you trained yourself to have bigger muscles, not trained yourself to have more strength.
So Steve ends up, telling me like, this doesn't make any sense. He goes, what is the logic? And this is a college athlete. He is very dedicated. Like he checks every box. He literally checks every box.
Yeah.
But he was super frustrated. He's like, dude, my deadlift's up. I'm doing everything. And
me too. Yeah.
So then I explained to him that the velocity, the power expressed through pitching, the angles, you have to develop power through those vectors.
Yeah.
So what he was doing is he was doing more strength training. And when I looked at all his exercises, his squat had gone up, his deadlift had gone up, his overhead press has gone up, like all his general lifts, his power clean had gone up. But I told him, I said, the issue is the force vectors are two-dimensional. Yeah. So when you're doing a squat, your direction of force is up and down, right? So it's two-dimensional. So think of like being two-dimensional as like C-3PO from Star Wars. He would be a two-dimensional machine, right?
Yeah.
So I said, your numbers are going up two-dimensionally, but the amount of training he was doing that was three-dimensional, which is pretty much anybody who's an athlete and plays sports, you have to move three-dimensionally. That's why I said my definition of an athlete is a person who can move through space. How does an athlete need to be able to move in every direction? Yeah. So it's multi-directional movement. His ability to move through space, multi-directional movement. So if I want to improve multi-directional movement, guess what I need to do? I have to train multi-directional power, multi-directional speed, multi-directional strength. And all his programming was two-dimensional. I said, when doing a bench press, how is that helping your velocity? How is that helping your arm path?
Especially since we've talked in previous episodes that it's specific to the motion you're doing. So if you're getting better at pushing a plate like this, your arms and that motion is going to get better at this, but a pitch is up here and you're going like that. So it doesn't entirely play into the pitch. I know we've talked about that previously.
Yes. So Stevie is a perfect example of somebody who his fitness improved drastically.
Yeah.
I mean, if you saw him, I mean, he looked like Like he was getting ready for like a bodybuilding show. Like his shoulders were broad. He looked, when I saw him, I was like, oh, dang, dude. Like you've been eating your protein. You're not skipping any meals. Like he looked like a unit. But then he started talking about all these elbow pain, shoulder tightness, and he felt less functional, meaning he couldn't move well.
Yeah.
And so that's a perfect example of improving your fitness, meaning he's getting better at the weight room. He's getting worse at throwing.
Yeah.
So how you train, the body will adapt to the very demands you put on it. Law of specificity. Adaptation is specific to the demands that you put on your body. If you train two-dimensionally, your body will adapt two-dimensionally.
Yeah.
If you train three-dimensionally, your body will adapt to be able to move multi-directionally, right?
Cool. Now here's the question. How do we train? We already discussed two-dimensional training. Can we go deeper into three-dimensional training? What does that kind of look like?
So if you're if you've ever taken like an anatomy course or even like a basic trainer cert, then you understand like planes of motion, right? So
yeah,
we have planes of motion. So we have what's called your sagittal plane, which is, imagine dividing my body from right to left half.
Yeah.
So anything where I'm moving forward and back would be considered sagittal movement.
Yeah.
Then we have what's called transverse movement, which is where you're centered, where if I were to divide my body in half, I have my upper and lower half where my force is being transferred from top to bottom or bottom up. And then we have what's called the frontal plane. So if I divided my body down the middle and I have my front half and my back half, that would be any motion that would be lateral. So moving left and right. So generally speaking, if you look at most fitness programs, they're going to be sagittal, meaning front and back, and they're going to be frontal, meaning side to side bias. And sports, if you look at the motion of sports, any sport that exists, yes, I can confidently say 100% of sports occur in the sagittal plane, where you're having the sagittal plane crosses over the left and right, front and back, forward and back. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Top to bottom, left and right, forward and back. So when you're an athlete, everything is multi-directional. So the transverse plane is the three-dimensional plane of motion.
Yeah.
So that means even if I was doing something where I'm moving laterally, like let's say I'm base stealing, take the posture of a baseball player. He's low, right? He's moving right, but he's also moving, his force vector is going this way. So he's going up and right at the same time as his torso and his hips turn.
Yeah.
So there's rotational motion coupled with linear motion. So with the transverse plane, we're having to use rotation to move straight. I can give you an example for any sport. Name a sport and I'll give you an example. Football. Let's say I'm cutting. I'm moving forward and laterally. So if I'm a running back, for example, I'm trying to move towards the goalpost. I'm always having forward momentum, right?
Yeah.
But with that forward momentum, there's also going to be shifting of left and right. There might be a spin move. There might be a hurdle. There might be, if I'm on the defensive side, I'm going to go from high to low, meaning I'm trying to tackle someone's hips, right? If I'm maybe a linebacker and I'm already low, or a lineman, I'm sorry, they're starting low and then going high. So there's this constant level change where we're having to move linearly, but we're having to do it with vectors that aren't just linear.
So the issue we're having right now is we're becoming great at running at 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and 6 o'clock, but we're forgetting about all the little
Correct.
ones
1
in
o'clock,
between.
2 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. We don't understand angle.
Yeah.
Another example of somebody who has great fitness not translating to great athleticism. Let's say you take a big squatter. Football, I would say all sports, but I'd probably say football is more notorious with the squat and the deadlift than probably any other sport, because there's this belief, if I have a strong, powerful squat, if I can squat double my body weight, I'm a freak. If able to squat triple my body weight, I'm a specimen. So you'll have, let's say, for example, a running back who's 200 pounds and he can squat 600.
Yeah.
And then everyone goes, oh my God, he's a freak. But once again, if you take the squat is a 2-dimensional exercise. So barbell's loaded across my back. So I'm having to drive force into the bar to make it go up. Which direction am I going? I'm going up, right? But now if I take that same football player, let's say it's a lineman that can squat 600 pounds, and now he's a defensive lineman trying to attack the quarterback. What's his force vector? Forward with an upward angle.
Yeah.
Not a squat. So his nervous system will adapt to producing force vertically, but in a game, it's not true vertical. There's linear motion with upward angle.
Yeah.
That would be what? 3-dimensional. And then he's trying to swim around the offensive lineman. So therefore, there's going to be torque. There's going to be rotation. Yeah. So you can't get good at 2-dimensional exercise and expect that it's going to translate 3-dimensionally. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, perfect sense. I know for me, one thing I kind of came to the conclusion to was, because I don't like squats, right? Me and you have already discussed this. For me, I don't like the whole weight on the back, the way it feels afterwards. So I do lunges. And for me, one thing I realized was, well, don't just do forward and straight side to side lunges, get some angular lunges in there too, start working those muscles also, which I've noticed for me has helped out a lot with just going to the court and dribbling and stuff. I feel a lot better going at those angular motions now, because before I felt strong side to side and forward and back, and now I'm starting to include those angles, and it's a huge game changer.
Oh, it's